This is Scott Becker with the Becker's Healthcare and Becker Private Equity Podcast. This is a combined episode, and the discussion today is Walgreens Boots Alliance, business transformations are difficult. So here's what's going on with Walgreens Boots Alliance, and we'll go through 5 or 6 quick points. First, the earnings and the revenues were up this last quarter. Second, a lot of that's due to the cost cutting that they've got going that they're pushing forward on. Third, they've tried to make the transformation from not just being the nation's second largest retail pharmacy chain, but also into a mega provider. If you think of the mega providers that are in 2 different businesses, well, CVS Aetna is a retail pharmacy chain. The biggest is also in the insurance business. United Healthcare transformed into a provider business. Walgreens Boots Alliance made some steps in that direction with their transaction with Village MD. What people find is these business transformations are very, very hard unless you're very, very long-term committed to it and you have the cash to put into it. Just a couple months ago, even though they had that huge transaction with Village MD in the last couple of years, they cut 60 of the clinics, closed 60 of the clinics that were open with Village MD, which just further indicates how hard it is to do this business transformation of being a provider and how much competition there is for physicians and staff and everybody else to staff these type of things where you want to be provider driven. So very, very challenging. Walgreens just recently announced that they're cutting their dividend. And this is probably the right move. Tim Wentworth, the new CEO of Walgreens Boots Alliance, the thing you can be very positive about is he's a very bright person who I think will ultimately make this work pretty well. But with the cutting of the dividend, their stock went down 6% today. It's down 36% of the last year. I think the real point here is doing this transformation to try and move out of just being a retail pharmacy chain into other things is very challenging. What Tim Wentworth did say is, look, we're not going to pivot entirely out of the drugstore chain business. That's our core business. And I think that's very refreshing. And they've got to get better and better at that. And I think they're doing that. I am a huge user of Walgreens Boots Alliance. There's one in our local town. I'm a regular customer. I actually find it to be a really well-run small operation at the one that we're at and generally easy to work with. As do I find CVS that way as well, to be clear. Each one has had a real hard time transitioning into really being provider-driven. Now, CVS did merge with Aetna to become insurance and retail-driven. They're all working the PBM business, which is more challenging. But again, these business transformations, I mean, the real point is when people talk about business transformations, and people talk about it often, this is hard to do. What I'm impressed about Tim Wentworth is his understanding. He's got a great core business. He's got to get it better and better at. Well, he does these other transformations too. I think that the future is probably brighter than it sounds at the moment for Walgreens Boots Alliance, being down 36% over the last year and down 6+% today. But I think he's on the right track and understands what he needs to do to make their core business great and then to add on businesses around it. Thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity Podcast and the Becker's Healthcare Podcast. Again, Walgreens Boots Alliance, business transformations are difficult. Thank you for listening.